So are Asian guys popular in Sweden?
I don't know if I would say pop. Well, obviously now with the K-pop, everything has gone out of like, right? I started that class and I was like, oh, you pretty. So Asians usually go in a group and then they stand and talk with their backs towards everybody.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Tell me about your thing with Asian guys. Is it something that happened when you were very young, or was it something that developed over time?
Yeah, like it started when I was super young. Honestly, I don't really remember when it started, but I've always been more drawn to, and it's not guys specifically, actually. It's Asian, like Eastern Asians in general. Always found like the women to be more pretty and well, living in Sweden, I can't really say that we had the highest population of Asians. So, like the first place where I was introduced to an Asian was actually at a Chinese restaurant. So, of course, crushing on the waiter, that's like me, 5 years old, being like, oh my God, he's so pretty.
Are there a lot of Asian kids in high school in Sweden?
Honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you, it's so long since I was there. But growing up, I guess we had maybe four.
Four Asian kids in a high school full of hundreds of kids. Okay.
Yeah, like when I was growing up, I mean, I'm not saying there aren't Asians because obviously there are Asians in Sweden, but um, it's not unless they're adopted and thus, have a Swedish upbringing, it's not really anyone you'll bump into. And this
So
is going to sound awful, but unless you go to the university for the like technical stuff or you're at a Chinese restaurant or like Asian supermarkets, you won't bump into the actual Asians. That's just not happening. So yeah, like in school, yeah, sure there were a few, but really few. And I was playing the piano growing up, and of course the best player we had was a Chinese girl. Uh, so yeah, but it started early, and then it just kept going. But I always, I never acted upon it, or well, I tried, but unsuccessfully so.
tell me about
Um,
that. How did you try?
how did I
So
try?
this high school kid,
Okay.
did you tell him you liked him? The high school Asian guy.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've always been pretty straightforward.
So just go.
So
Do you
like,
just go up to him and say, "Hey, I like you," or what do you do?
well, obviously not day one. But it was like, I started that class and I was like, oh, you pretty. Um, and then of course it turned out, he was good at guitar, he could sing, and he was also nice, and all those things. And I was like starting to get to know him as a classmate first. And then I think after our well, we had to sing because I went to a music class, so we had to sing together and do it, right? So after our performance on stage where we were doing Tears in Heaven, I told him that like, hey, I've liked you for a really long time, and I think you're awesome. And so then he was like, yeah, cool. Well, I don't like you. I'm like, cool.
Well, he's
That was
very
that.
direct. Well, at least he was honest.
Oh yeah, I really appreciated that. So we stayed friends for a while, and yeah, then when we quit high school, we didn't really see each other anymore. And then, well, in my early 20s, I went out a little bit, and again with the, I don't know how to say it, like mm, people go in groups here a lot, and same goes for Asians. So Asians usually go in a group and then they stand and talk with their backs towards everybody.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm more sorry, but whatever. And then yeah, so you're at a bar and you like buy a drink and they drink that and then they got like they give you a nod and you're like, okay, well, I'll try. I'll try. So you go there like, oh, this is scary. I have to cross like 10 of your friends, but this is fine. I'll be fine. I'll make it. I'll make my way to you. This is fine. And they go like, what is this? Why is this? Why is there a girl like trying to get past you? And you're like, okay, excuse me, excuse me. Okay, hi, guy who like nodded at me and drank the drink I gave you. Like, you wanna talk slash dance slash take
Oh wait, so
another drink?
you
Like,
bought him a drink, and he
oh
gave
yeah,
you a nod, and then you walked over and said hi.
yeah.
Wow, you're like a guy. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So please continue.
Well, it's not like he was gonna come over to me, was it?
I mean,
So,
if a girl did that to, I would definitely go up and at least talk to her for a few minutes. Yeah, but that's me.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that no, that's never happened to me.
Okay. Okay. Please
Ever.
continue the story. I'm fascinated.
So yeah, so I asked him and he was like, "Oh, no, I just nodded to thank you." And I'm like, "Okay, sure, fine." And then, all his friends go like giggle giggle and I don't understand, sadly, any Eastern Asian language. So I don't know what they said, but since they were laughing, I guess at least I gave them a good time.
It's a good attitude. Yeah. I mean, he probably liked you.
Um,
Maybe he just was nervous. He didn't know what to say.
yeah, I don't know, but
How do you
um
know that? How did you interpret his response? Like, did you feel like I tried and he didn't like me, or he's too shy, or like what was your interpretation?
I did not perceive it as shyness, no. I couldn't really make my mind up of whether he was just making fun of me because he sounded pretty arrogant.
What did he
And I
say?
guess by the tone that they all started laughing in, it wasn't like, "Oh, this is so sweet." It was more like a ha ha ha, like yeah, it didn't feel great. But I don't know. I don't know if he was shy. I'll never find out. Never seen him again. It's
Really?
like
So are Asian guys popular in Sweden?
I don't know if I would say pop. Well, obviously now with the K-pop, everything has gone out of like, right? But but before that, I would say just the same as everyone else.
Okay, that's different in the States, you know? In the States, it's like a little bit of a, like we're here.
Yeah. I I have never heard anyone say, well, prior to me finding out about the whole AMWF thing existing. So like flashback to like, just go back 2 years or something. I had never heard anyone express any specific extra interest in Asians, but also never anything against them. And people had, boyfriends, girlfriends being from whatever descent really, so Asians or whatever. It didn't really matter. Hmm?
Just to compare notes, I have three different tiers of experiences. I have experiences in towns where, in Northern America, where it's like when they look at me, I can tell it's really foreign in a bad way. Then I have
Hmm.
towns that are like neutral, which is like I'm just a guy. And then there's towns where they look at me and it's like looking at a peacock, like, oh, that looks majestic. So there's different tiers, I think, in different cities as to how they perceive someone who looks so foreign compared to them. So that's my experience. It sounds like with Sweden, it's like in the middle where there's no bad or good. It's just another person.
Yeah.
Would you
But
think
you do
so?
look rather good, so it's kind of weird that they would look at you as anything else than a peacock.
Oh, me?
Mm.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. No, that's the thing. Like, I didn't always look like this, right? If you see my YouTube and my older pictures, I look like a huge dork. I have glasses. It was bad. But the fact that even like above, let's assume above average Asian like me would get those looks, to me, it's like data that just reinforces that, yeah, if it's hard for me, it must be hard for a regular Asian guy in
Mm.
these certain type of cities. And that's why I think sometimes they feel like I'm speaking for them, of course, but they feel like it's harder for them. It's like a barrier they can't get past. And then I just tell them just go visit this country, and then they'll go. At least to some of my clients, and they'll be like, "Oh, completely different experience," and they come back with like a different mindset. Sometimes when you're stuck doing the same thing over and over again, you start believing that that's the truth, and you can't break through. We call those limiting beliefs, and I think
For
sometimes that
sure.
happens with Asian guys.
No, I just like it. It's totally true because I had like I in 2013, I went to Japan, and that's where I found out the truth about why I could never ever find an Asian guy to date. And it was a lot of the physical attributes, right? Um, and it kind of stuck with me because in Japan they were so blunt about it. Like here, like I said, I only had these vague experiences. I went up to them, they were either not interested or they laughed about it, but it wasn't anything specific, right? Whereas in Japan, they were like, "Oh, yeah, well, you have nice tits, but you look like this and you have that and you have that and you have that and you have that and no Asian guy will ever want you if you have that." And I'm like, "Wow. All right. Well, at least I know." And then it kept getting reinforced because when I asked guys that I put like I met out and I was like, oh, would you want to have a drink or anything? And they were like, no, thanks. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna sound super weird, but can you at least tell me why? And all of them went for the same attributes that these Japanese guys had pointed out. And I was like, shit. um, and then I found the AMWF groups, and it seemed like, and this is gonna sound horrible, and it seems like there were guys who were either the leftovers or whatever, but there were like they didn't really care about all these things that everybody else was so negative about.
I'm sorry, can I rewind for a second? You look great to me, so I don't understand. First of all, I like that. I love how proactive you are, because I think everyone can learn from this, which is when they rejected you, you didn't give up. You were like, okay, I appreciate that. Can you tell me why? Because I think that feedback is so valuable, right? Sometimes that why might be physical, but sometimes it could be, you were a little too aggressive or whatnot. So I like that you did that. Would you mind sharing with me what it is? Because I don't see any flaws on the camera. So what were the physical
I'll show
things
you one.
Like, what were they telling you?
Here's one.
I don't understand. Oh, you being
I
white?
don't shave my arms. I have hairy arms.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that was apparently a huge thing.
I can't even
Especially
see
since
it on camera.
I'm
Okay.
like this is me being tanned, right? So my black hair kind of shows extra much on my body, right?
Okay.
And second was the weight. I'm not skinny. I'm like, I would say average,
You're not skinny.
but
You
my
look fine. You look fine.
yeah, thanks. But I'm not skinny. Like I was overweight, and now I'm normal weight, BMI wise, for white people.
I see. So when you were in Japan, they told you straight up, based on Japanese standards, you were overweight, and therefore they didn't want to
Oh
date
yeah,
you.
oh yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
I mean, and it's totally fair and valid because I mean, white people normal weight is kind of fat Asian weight.
Yeah, yeah, right. But some Asian guys like my brother's married to a girl who's overweight, and he actually prefers that. You didn't meet any
Oh
guys
yeah,
like that?
look, everybody has different preferences,
Yeah,
right? Some people love tall guys, some people like short guys, some
yeah.
people like younger, older. Like everybody has their own preferences. But getting rejected time up and time up and time, you start to wonder, like, what is this? Like, am I that horrible looking? Because I mean, I'm not saying I'm pretty, but I'm not really ugly either, right? So it was kind of weird to me.
Okay.
And when I got those answers, it was like, okay, well, one of those things I can sort of work with. The other one, am I willing to straight up just de-hair for someone else to like me? No, not really. Like, I'm all fine for doing it for myself, but in order to do it for, like, no.
Okay. Interesting. So now you're in Japan, you find this out, and then tell me about your adventures. Is there another chapter to this adventure?
What?
Have you did you
What
and then did you
adventure?
keep trying, or did you find someone on these groups? Like how did that story go?
Oh, yeah, these groups, I don't know. I started talking to a couple of people, and I would say I made a couple of nice acquaintances or friends. There was so much drama going on last year. I guess COVID kind of messed it up for most people and brought out the worst in most people. So I did meet, not meet physically, but like online meet. A couple people over time, but everything like it kind of followed the same pattern, like they'd be so interested and it was so nice that they had found someone who would finally listen to them and blah 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 blah, and we had good like conversations and whatnot, and then someone prettier came along and out I went, right?
How do you
And
know
it,
someone prettier came along?
because in some of these specific cases it was the same girl who always targeted the guys I was already talking to,
In the
and they
group, you
went
mean?
for her.
Oh, and you mean in the group?
Oh yeah.
I see. Okay.
And I mean, if I was unsure before, I mean, her and I, we also kept in touch. So when she was like, oh my God, I'm so much in love with this guy now. And I'm like, oh, you mean the guy that I told you that I liked, that I was talking about, that you just magically swooped in and started talking to? Okay, cool. And then, it happened a couple of times over, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just not. I'm out.
Are you guys still friends?
Friends, I wouldn't say we're friends. No, like after I saw the pattern and like found out that that was indeed what she was doing. I mean, sure, you can't always control your feelings, but you can definitely control whether you act upon them or not. And if it's a repeated pattern, mm,
Yeah, I understand. That's not cool. I don't know if she's doing it for validation or what, if what you're saying is true. Also, I think it speaks to the closed circle of these groups where there's not that many options, or I guess maybe there's like the same type of people that are kind of being recycled. So I think the group is very closed. It's kind of like a pond that doesn't have water flow, right? It's like it just gets stale after a while. Based on what I know, I don't really hang out in these groups, but I observe them sometimes. Um, so then now, are you still hoping to date an Asian guy, or are you open to dating other guys? Like, what's your situation
I've
nowadays?
always been dating, no, dating. I've always been open to dating. I wish I was always dating. But yeah, I've always been open to dating anyone. To me, it's not specifically the race that matters. Like, sure, I do find Asian people better looking. Like if we take, if there's a grade like, oh, from 1 to 10, how pretty are people, right? Like if I say that white guys go from 0 to 10 and Asians also go from 0 to 10, but their 0 starts at the white 3, right? So it goes to basically the white 13.
You just find Asian features more attractive on a
Yeah,
baseline. Got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also oftentimes the mentality, like from most people that I've met, talked to, read about, I don't know, like I guess it's more about the upbringing because I also come from an upbringing where you have to study, you have to become something, you have to succeed, you have to this, that, that, you have to honor your family, you have to care about them when they get old, you help them. It's not like, oh, well, my dad broke his leg, so tough shit for him. I'm just going to go on with my life. Like, no, you go there, you cook, you help him out, right? And it seems to be more of the same mentality, whereas here in Sweden, like, yeah, well, just my ex, for example, Swedish guy. Oh, I have cousins there. Cool. Shall we go visit? No, I don't know them. I'm like, what? Oh yeah, I know they're there, but I don't know them. Okay. And they like, oh yeah, I have like 50 cousins here and I have that family there and they don't know each other. They don't talk to each other. It's like just estranged people. Um, so I guess in that way also I related more like with the Asians because well, knowledge is important. Talent is important. Food is valued, and I love food. Like, I'll stand and cook for 10 hours. If the dish is good and the family is happy, I'm all good.
I do
Um,
find a lot of commonality between Eastern Europe in particular and Asian culture when it comes to family units and how they think about how integrated family is in your life. Like for example, one big one for me when I came to America was respect your elders. And here,
mhm.
it's almost like ageism, where it's like racism, but for with age. It's like the older you are, people that respect you less. But in Asian culture, we've always taught like one day you're gonna be old, so treat them with respect. Like from a very young age, I remember like my mom would tell me, if an old person gets on the bus, it doesn't matter if you're sitting in a handicapped seat, always offer your seat to the other person.
Mhm.
These are just little things that are ingrained in us very early on. And I've found that certain girls from European countries in particular, not in North America, maybe some places of Canada, but mostly Eastern Europe and other European countries, where those values are similar. And so I found that that's
Yeah.
more compatible especially when it comes to like, how do I live my life with my family, and if I want to have my own family, how is that going to look? I think those values are quite similar, despite some of the other differences. You speak really good English. Does everyone in Sweden? I
Thank you.
heard the education system is pretty good, and they teach you in school.
Well, yes, they do teach us in school. My school in particular started earlier. We started from fourth grade, but also English is mandatory here. So you can't really get into university or anything if you don't pass English.
So if I go to Sweden, I should be able to speak to everybody using English.
Yes.
Nice. Um,
Um, well, you might find some of the accent
yeah.
there for sure. Like because in Sweden we have this accent, which many Americans find kind of amusing. But yeah, you probably, yeah, you should be able to talk to literally anyone.
I always want to go visit Sweden and Eastern Europe in particular, but Sweden and Germany I wanted to go check out. Okay, so if I go talk to a girl, would do some girls, this is interesting, I don't know if you have a lot of girlfriends there, but would they give me a chance as an Asian guy, or would they be like, nah, I don't date Asian guys? What do you think the response would be?
I think it would have nothing to do with your race if they reject you. However, I can't really say what they would do because my experience with women here is, well, first of all, it's different because, I'm a female too, so they react differently to me than to a guy. But I would say that a lot of women here, as of the last 10 years, have gotten way more picky, and it doesn't have to do anything like it doesn't have to do with your looks or anything. It's just like they have set their standard to something, and if you don't meet their 15 criteria, you're out.
Why do you think that's happening?
I don't know all of the things of why it's happening, but the dating apps for sure. For sure. Because earlier you had to actually go out and talk to people and have a personality, and you would see if they like you or not. Now you go on an app and you open it, and then you get anxiety because you have an inbox with 550 messages. And then, of course, you have to start getting picky because if you're to reply to everybody, well, you'll be doing that as a full-time job.
Yeah, technology has made it where we can, if we're really good looking, or even those of us who are average, we have these like, oh, we can get all these people, so let's just keep swiping. Okay, that's interesting. I guess for me in the States, right? If you take let's say you rate me as an 8. If I take a non-Asian guy, a white guy who's an 8, I would have to
Mm-hmm.
outcompete him. So let's say we have the same height, same kind of style, same looks, right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
assume that, let's play this experiment where we're both at an 8 out of 10 in a dating pool. Sexual market value, let's assume. As an
Mm-hmm.
Asian guy, because I'm a dating coach, I know how to talk to women, so I can outcompete him. But if you take an average guy and an average guy, the white guy will always win. So is that the case in Sweden, or do you think that there's less of that in Sweden?
I think there's less, but I have extremely limited experience with it, so I
All right.
wouldn't know.
Okay. Well, let me ask you another question
Um,
then. Do your friends find Asian guys attractive, or do they think you're weird for having this preference?
they don't think I'm weird for having the preference. I have a couple of friends who have the same preference as I do. Um, but yeah, of course, some think it's weird, but it's just because they really like these, fluffy, burly bear men. And I'm sorry, but Asians don't come anywhere close to that. Like, sorry, not sorry.
So, so okay, you try these groups, they haven't really worked out. Do you have another plan going forward as far as dating goes? Like, what's your dating plan? Do you have one? Or are you just single for now and you're happy being single?
But I don't mind being single. I love my own company. But um, plan, I don't know. Like, if I find someone who knows how to keep a conversation going and is nice, then, I'm open to going on a date and giving them a try. I think dating here is a bit different than it is over in the States.
Oh yeah? How so?
Because here, well, a date doesn't have to mean anything really. You can just be like, oh, let's go on a date. And that can be like, let's go out and take a walk for 20 minutes, or let's go and have a coffee, or it can be a dinner, but dinner is usually not something you do for the first date. Like that's way up there, right? So usually it's coffee, tea, have a chat for an hour or two, and then go your own way kind of thing.
In America, we have like a big hookup culture. Is there a hookup culture in Sweden?
Yeah, I think ever since the 60s, our country is labeled the slut country for a reason.
I don't understand.
Oh, well, way back when we had a famous actress bathing in a fountain, Sweden got labeled as an erotic country, and here sex isn't that big of a deal. So it's sure hookup. I mean, we have several names for friends with benefits, and like there are several sites for it too. And Tinder is basically the same thing, right? It's like, oh, handsome, down to fuck. Yeah, okay, cool. 5 minutes there, right? Um, but yeah, I think that's also one of the reasons why it's become harder to date.
Do you think it's a so sex isn't a big deal, and you said you have several phrases for friends with benefits. So the culture itself doesn't punish sex or doesn't make it a bad thing like maybe here in the States. It's just like this is something we do as friends.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Like for the monogamous people, it's usually like, it's common that when you start dating someone seriously, you'll kind of either cut ties with your friends with benefits or make them back into just friends. But most people are expected to have friends with benefits anyway.
Really?
Like not during a relationship, but
While you're
in
dating.
this
And it's
way.
not looked down upon. It's like something that's very common within the
Well,
culture.
of course, it's an individual thing, right? Some people are more open about it, some people are not. Some people frown about like, oh my God, you're friends with your exes, whereas others are like, you're weird if you're not friends with your exes, right? So we have the whole spectrum here.
When people get into
Um,
relationships in Sweden, do they keep an open relationship? Do they have swing, or are they pretty monogamous from that point forward?
I think the standard is still monogamous. More and more people are getting into those open relationships or semi-swingers or yeah, they still aren't really down with the polyamory thing. But I mean, being polyamorous myself, of course, I hang out with more people who are than who aren't. Yeah, I think most people still keep it monogamous, but more and more people are coming to terms with the whole probably won't be monogamous, just the two of us for life, right? Most people are like, oh, we're gonna keep it monogamous and we love each other and yada yada yada, and then after a couple of years they go like, oh my God, let's try this. Let's add someone.
When I came to the States, I was a skinny, dorky Asian guy with glasses. I had this little mole over here,
The
and
best
I was
kind.
like very nerdy. Okay, super nerdy. I'm still pretty
Best
nerdy,
kind.
but I just pretend to be cool to get girls. I'm kidding. I'm still there's a side of me that's very nerdy, and I know how to express myself to
Mhm.
get the results that I want, but then show them who I am. So then I went through this journey where I'm like, okay, if I'm in the States, I got to work out a little bit more because in Asia I was fine, but here I'm skinny.
Mhm.
Um, I had to upgrade my looks. I knew that if I wanted the result that I wanted, right, which was I wanted to be able to date not just Asian girls, I wanted to be able to date freely, just be on equal terms. That was my goal.
Mhm.
I went through this transformation, and I never was bitter about it. I was always like, okay, this is something I need to do to compete, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. Let me improve myself. I saw it as like a journey of improvement.
Mhm.
Did you feel like you had to go through the same thing, or do you feel pressure to do that, or are you just like they're gonna like me for me and that's it?
For me, I guess I'm one of those oddballs who just accepted the fact that she's an oddball. Um, So sure, if I'm going on a date, I'll open my eyes, I'll put my contacts in, I'll do that. But yeah, I realize that I won't be changing too much about myself in order to compete. And I think that's mostly because I'm so comfortable with living and being by myself. Like, had things changed, or if I had, let's say if I had an urge to actually have a partner, like this would feel fulfilling in my life, or I want a family, or I want kids, or like I really gotta nail someone down and have them to be mine. Sure, maybe. Maybe I'll up my competition a bit. But the way, like where I'm at now, if they don't like me for me, then in the end, it doesn't matter how much I change my physical appearance, they're still not gonna like me.
Man, that's complete opposite, right? For me, which is like not to say one is bad or one is wrong or one is right, but let me challenge you a little bit. So, what if I let me throw out this hypothesis. because I have raised my sexual market value in the dating pool by the universal standards, more dominant as a guy, more dominant, able to communicate well, make women feel comfortable but attracted, right? I can attract more people, and then over time, as I interact with them, I can show them who I really am. It's like it's like marketing, right? It's like I've got their attention now. Now I can really show them who I really am, and I can find out who really likes me for me. But now I'm doing it from a place of options, as opposed to waiting around hoping someone will discover me. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my take on this. And to be honest with you, my take of this probably, there's been moments when it was a little toxic, where I was like, I have to look like this, or I have to get into this modeling scene. Like it wasn't healthy, right? So I think with your stance, I think it's more healthy. But at the same time, maybe there's a balance between understanding how the game is played, but playing the game in a way where I understand the rules of the game, but I'm going to bend them in a way where I win the game, but yet in winning that game, I can still show them who I really am as a person. Do you see what I'm going with this?
For sure. I'm like I told you, it's my non-game is probably because I'm too comfortable with where I'm at, right? Like if I actually was in the, like this, if I was on the hunt, let's say that, right? Sure, I could work out. I could become this, prettier version of myself. I could learn how to do makeup to bring out the best features in my face. I could style my wardrobe and maybe not wear like whatever and actually wear something pretty. And not to say I never do, because like even I know how to dress up on occasion. But but it's just like, sure, if it mattered a lot to me, of course I could. And yeah, it is obviously, if you're out to catch fish and you throw out bait which is dry bread, which no fish likes ever, or if you throw out bait which is a pretty fish, well, obviously you're gonna have the bigger fish come for the fish and not for the bread, right? But again, it's all what matters most to us. To me, it's a lot more about the mental connection than the physical, and I'm not desperate nor really on the hunt. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, well, I guess it doesn't,
But from what I see, you don't need that much. Like if we switch bodies, I think I would know exactly what to do to get like a lot of Asian guys into me. I'm just saying, like, I think I could do it if I had your body.
You could probably do it.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, would have way much fun on my own in your body, so yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. Girls you can go nonstop. Guys have to rest. So maybe you won't
but that would be a very interesting feature to try.
Sure. I prefer the other option, but I'll never know. Okay, great. Well, those are my main questions. Do you have any questions for me, or I would like to? I don't know if I'm biased.
What are you hoping to achieve with this? Like, what are these interviews going to lead to? Is it like for you, or is it for like the vast majority of Asian guys wondering like what do people over the world think, or like what?
I just finished building a product called Dating Without Borders, and the product started out because I had so many Asian clients asking me, what do? I don't know how to date girls. I don't know how to date any girl at all. How do I date girls outside of my immediate social circle? Because all the Asians hang out with each other. So I built this course teaching them, first, to change their mentality. Second, to change their behavior patterns. Third, to build social circles. 4, there's a certain way you do online dating, kind of like a sales funnel, where it works for Asian guys. And then as I'm building this course, as I finish the course, I'm like, you know what? I need to give them some experience that there are girls who actually like us. And I was missing that part because I had interviews with guys who were very good with women who were Asian, who were minorities, like really good. Now I'm like, you know what? I'm missing this part because I think for them to see these videos and actually see, oh, there's a real person here who actually prefers us. I think that reinforces some of their beliefs that I'm trying to share with them.
Oh, you mean I should have worn more makeup and prettier clothes?
No, I think you're beautiful as you are, and the fact that it was so interesting hearing your story. Like you were like, yo, when I was in Japan, I had a hard time because I think that story really, if I relate to it, I think other Asian guys will, because for us, that's how it feels all the time. except we can't shave our arms, we can't lose weight, we can't change our features. Do you know what I mean? So like like in the regular Asian guy in the States, like I was back when I was a virgin at 23, there was nothing I could do to change how I looked. I mean, I could change my style, but I can't change my race. So for how you felt in Japan, a lot of Asian guys feel all the time. So things like that, and then when you said, I'm an oddball and I am who I am, I think that can't. It depends how you interpret it, but I would consider that. Oh, there are girls who are like just very original, and she knows how to talk and have a good time with herself, and she prefers guys like us. Yes, she can find guys like us, and I think that people don't know that. People don't know girls like you exist. We think that most see like I'm not speaking. I am attempting to speak for all Asians here, so obviously we're not monolithic. It's not just one thing. But I know personally, having coached for 15 years, a lot of Asian guys think that, have this limiting belief that all non-Asian girls just want non-Asian guys, and they didn't even give a thought about us. So you see how like having this series of these interviews is reinforcing the opposite of that idea, getting them away from this like one-track mind, like I'm not good enough, like, it'll never work, da 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 da. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm doing this. Yeah.
So if you find any cute nerd, preferably with the glasses, 'cause that is so cute, but he has to be a gamer, Like, I cannot date a non-gamer. I think that's where I fall short.
um. Okay. Sure. I mean, I used to game a lot, and then I stopped gaming. But I think most Asian guys have had a period in their life where they play video games. I just don't. 4 hours. I didn't. I would. Man, I was so obsessed. I get so obsessed. I would play all day. I would play days straight just to like win the game. Or sometimes you have like MOBA games where you can't win, so you just keep playing. But like
Nerd.
I can't. And people for those who don't know, MOBA is like one of those like maps where you play with teams and stuff. But um, yeah, I mean, I understand, but there are a lot of couples I know who one of them is a gamer and the other one isn't. It's fine, and some of them even make money doing it. So it's okay. Um, yeah, I mean, I think if you post this video, or if we like put this out there, I'm sure the Asian guys will be interested in talking to you. I do think that these groups are too attracts. Some people said they've met and they're happy, but I think that um, depending on it as a solution is not a good way to go, because I think it attracts
Oh
people
no.
that are slanted towards a certain direction. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the dishonesty.
What do you mean?
Oh, several things. Like, just like the most basic things when you start talking to someone, when you talk to them a lot, and you're sort of starting to online date. I don't even know what to call it, but let's call it online dating, long distance dating thing, right? And then they say that you're the only one that they're talking to in a romantic way. And I'm like, you don't have to, but thanks for telling me, kind of. And then you find out that you're not. And like, it's all those little lies. Everybody always keeps like these 15 doors open always. It's like, I don't know. Or simple things like, I don't want kids. And then I've had several dudes talk to me and they're like, oh, that's fine. I don't want kids either. And so that's fine. And then you find out that they already have kids. And it's like, wait, so you don't want your own kids? Or like, what did you mean by you don't want kids?
Are these all guys from the group or just all over?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't speak for the guys in the group, but
Oh, you shouldn't. No, I should.
I think long distance is tough, man. I really think that it's hard to get to know
Oh,
someone. Yeah, long distance might work if you met in person first and then you moved away, but starting out long distance is very, very difficult. I would almost advise against it. Um,
oh yeah, for sure. Or if you have a plan, like if you if you're interested in it, then of course, I mean, it can work if you say you want to give it a try and you can like start dating and then you have a set time frame that like, okay, well, in 2 months we're meeting up there and there and you actually go through with it, then, you can give it a shot by all means.
sure, yeah, I think
And
if you have a plan, but I also think that you should be honest. Like, look, since we're long distance, like, let's not promise anything that would limit us in any way. I think that's
oh yeah,
healthier. That's healthier than lying about it or pretending
of
like
course,
you know
of course.